night is the Rangers Journal night.
Hello and welcome to your latest Rangers Journal Tactical Breakdown. It's myself, Dave, back hosting tonight, and with me I have Ross. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, Dave. Yourself?
Yeah, good. Obviously we'll come to it. I think we probably carried a bit of luck in that game, but you know what? I'll
Certainly
take
did.
it. And last but certainly not least, Dylan, welcome back, mate. How's things?
Hi, cheers, Dave. Good. I was on the pod last night. I told the guys that were watching it, they would get a wee tactical breakdown of some of it out. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Well, tell you what, we'll give a quick word to the sponsor. You can see them at the bottom of the screen there, Off to the Match I Go. You can find them on Facebook and online. And if you are buying anything, enter the code Journal10, get a nice cheeky 10% discount. If you're not already liked and subscribed to the page, please do so, assuming you like what we're telling you. If you turn on notifications, obviously you'll be advised as and when we're going to go live. But let's crack on with what you're all here for. So let's jump in, and I'll just play this through to start with then, Dylan. So this is our first clip, and this one we're really going to look at the shape of the midfield a bit, and the gaps that are actually being left here. So I'm just going to pause it there for us. Already we can see that there's a fairly big space there. That would normally be where, as we've shown here, you would expect Rothwell to jump into. So talk us through what we're seeing here, Dylan.
Yeah, so there's a couple of options here. We've highlighted the space. For me, the hole that our number 6 should be playing in. I know the goalkeeper goes along with it, and that's maybe why he pushes up the park a little bit. But for me, as soon as the ball goes back, it has to be quicker and reacting, dropping into that space here. You can see where the arrows ended. Then you've got Dio, who would move into his space, and that would allow a passing lane straight into Dio, whose goal the opposite side of his man. So again, we're on the counter attack then. Again, Raskin, who you can see at the sort of right hand side of the picture, if he could drop 10 yards shorter, he could get on the ball. But it's just a lack of movement, David. And I think that was a theme throughout the full night. Now, it's not something that is going to massively hurt us, because as we play more games, it will become more second nature. But I just thought, against a good team, you really need to be sharp mentally and physically, and I just think we were lacking that a wee bit. But if Rothwell moves in there, Deal can move into his space, get on the ball, get turned, and then we're going at them. Or Raskin can drop in as well there and receive the ball. But that was a theme throughout the full night.
Yeah, I think so. We obviously spoke in the group chat kind of while this was happening, and I think at some points for me it felt like there wasn't an out ball, that the midfield maybe were too far back, and I guess at points they were. There was an element of siege defending about it at times. But you also pointed out this kind of gap, and once you said it and you start looking at it, it is actually fairly obvious. Ross, did you kind of pick up on this space between the defence and the midfield without that link at all?
Yeah, it was quite obvious as the game went on. As Dylan has said, if Rothwell goes in there, there's so much a different tactic. But if you let it play, you'll see what I mean. If Rothwell goes in that wee space there, that'll kind of split the Panathinaikos players. So I just feel like if he'd done that, it would have made life a lot easier for that pass.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll play it on from here. And obviously we've got that kind of passing around the back. I was actually quite surprised for our possession tactics, but let me just drop that back. Because I just want to, again, talk about this. And again, it's kind of Rothwell dropping into that space, Dylan.
Yeah. So again, for me, I called it hiding. I think a lot of midfield team are hiding beside or behind players. Again, for me, you can see that the press is on, all right? Rothwell has to go and drop in there. And then if he's got a man tight, the ball straight out to Tav first time, who's at the bottom left hand of your screen. And then he can maybe go and drive and break with the ball. Ideally, we've highlighted Finlay Curtis, who is actually in a decent bit of space here. Now, if we have a left-footed left back playing, he can find him with that pass. But because Arons is so one-footed, he's having to look this half of the pitch. If he tries to turn and play that out with his right foot, the boy's going to intercept it. He's obviously not comfortable enough to try it with his left. So again, these are the different types of problems we were facing on the night. Like your midfield three there, you could throw a bed sheet over them, they're that close together. We need to start sort of moving into these spaces that we're opening up. And that's the reason I think that we're playing it round the back to drag Panathinaikos out, to create the space to go and exploit. But again, it just wasn't clicking on the night. It was similar to the first leg as well, Dave.
And I guess, there is going to have to be an element of patience about this. If we are going to, well, I say if, obviously Martin is our manager, by all accounts, he isn't going to change his kind of way, how he plays the game. So I think it could potentially be a bit rough to start with while the players get into it. Ross, the other thing that he's spoken about is obviously the need for more players. Ross touched on it there. You've got Max Aarons, who's a right back, forced to play at left back. I just want to kind of talk for a second about Finlay Curtis, because I felt like, I'm not going to say he was great in the first half. I don't think any of them were particularly great in the first half, but he was maybe a wee bit brighter than some of the others. And yeah, it almost felt like his game was kind of impacted by the fact that he had Aarons playing behind him. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 1,000%. As you said, if we have a left-footed left back, we just, I'm very old-fashioned, so left back should be left-footed. I just feel like if it is the likes of Jeff to play left back, it would make the build-up so much better. Being Curtis on the left foot as well, he's kind of stuck between what side to go. If Aaron's been on his right foot, he's kind of stuck what to do,
Ross, sorry, Dylan. One of the other things that I saw mentioned on the old socials was obviously there's a couple of times already we've pulled out Rothwell. Now, in the first leg, it felt like the fullbacks were inverting a wee bit more, so there was a wee bit more support in that space, whereas he was kind of being left in the second leg. Did that surprise you? Do you think that was kind of planned, that we didn't need to be maybe quite as aggressive given we had a 2-goal lead?
Sorry, who are we talking about here, Dave?
So we're talking about the fullbacks inverting, mate.
Aye.
And not doing it so much in the second leg.
Yeah, I think that on the first leg they were doing it because they were just doing it for doing its sake. They weren't doing it at the right times. They weren't doing it at the right positions either. Like the ball would go back to the centre half, and then Raskin and Aarons would just switch over, and the players who were marking them would just stayed because there was no intensity to it. There was no dummy runs. There was no sort of trying to build it out the proper way. Here, what happens is the ball ends up going into Danilo, who drops in. And again, when you see Rothwell and the man who's marking him's starting point, it makes it more difficult for Danilo to go on the ball because he's having to come right down into that clustered area. If Rothwell, like we said, and the boy marking him, who will follow him, if he drops in there, Danilo's then got a massive space to either take a touch and play the ball out or get turned. I know there's a man on his back, but again, he's running into traffic here trying to receive a ball, and he gets that. Again, that's why I kind of felt sorry for him. He gets a hard time of it, but again, there's no help there with movement round about him.
Agreed. And I think you'll see that in this next few kind of slides. You can see him coming back just to try and get involved. And he's got no options, really. I think that's quite striking, that part of the pitch. Your strikers coming back with no options. That's a worry. So we can see here, Butland plays it out. Now, you quite like this piece, Ross, that this was kind of one of the few times that the wide midfielders did work.
Yes.
Just before we get to that, Phil, talk us through these arrows, because we talked about this pre coming on, and you had some thoughts about that.
Yeah, we did. So if you go back to the first leg again, I speak about inverted wingers. So if that Aaron's, for example, comes in, and then Curtis have just dropped back a wee bit. Just feel like that would change the shape and kind of give Panathinaikos a wee shock that they weren't expecting us to play that position.
Yeah,
So,
and I think the other thing that kind of stood out here is, if Aaron's had been a wee bit cute and actually started coming in, he would have dragged that player in with him, and then that would have freed up the space to play it up the wing. But ultimately,
That's
the move
what
does
happens,
work.
Dave. Yeah.
You can see there's your kind of release, players coming forward. Now, this ultimately is a bit of a waste. Quite early on in the game, it'd been a great time to score, obviously. We do nothing with it. Dylan, you had some thoughts on how, we could have made a bit more space for us, had some room. So do you want to talk us through that, mate?
I just previously there, when we spoke about inverted wing backs, that was inverted full back. Sorry, that was a example of it happening. So Aaron's plays it back to Shooter, and then he comes in. The man follows him.
Mhm.
Ball goes out to Curtis, and Raskin makes a dummy run towards him, but he knows the ball's going to Curtis and spins in behind. And then we get to this point here. So that's an example of it. That's like what Russell Martin, I think, has been trying to train on the pitch, and that has to happen more often. Here, what happens is it's 3v3, and they just run straight right into the 6-yard box. It's so easy to defend, it's so easy to mark, so easy to follow. For me here, Dowell should be busting through the two defenders and going towards the ball. It then leaves his marker saying, well, do I follow him or do I not? If he doesn't follow him, you slide the ball through, he's through on goal. If he does follow him, Danilo makes that run and you play him through. But again, we'll play it out. It's so simple defending, and it's so basic attacking. I think when you've got wingers and if Danilo is a starting striker, when they start to click and play with each other, you'll see more of this variation when we are attacking. But for me, it's a poor attack. It's a poor 3v3.
It's
All
a
the way.
waste, really, isn't it?
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And
Kind of things we can't waste in Europe,
Yeah, those runs, they're not always going to happen. They're not always going to get you a goal. But if you're trying it, it's something different. You know what I mean?
this is another attack. And Dylan, I'm going to come back to you on this one because you pulled this out, and we actually see this across a few clips. So talk us through what we're seeing here, mate.
Basically, the goalkeepers wait long here. We've drew two black lines, right, and that's your first black line on the left hand side is your line of defence. I know it's not a straight line, but your two centre backs have dropped off, which is proper thing to do. You've then got your sort of midfielders here in a straight line as well. In between those two lines, you've got two Panathinaikos players and one Rangers player, and this is a theme that happened throughout the full night. This time the goalkeeper goes long. I think Shooter should deal with it round about here, but he lets it bounce. Aaron thinks he's got all the time in the world, and you'll see what happens at the end of it. But again, this is players, and there's more clips of this playing goal side of the midfielders. So they're playing in behind their midfielders, and we're too focused on the ball in front or the man in front. And I think that's sort of, again, it was another theme throughout the night. If Panathinaikos decided to pass it short here, they're breaking through that line of midfield, no problem. And then that's starting the attack. And that's what made us so under the caution and looking so vulnerable against it, because their movement off the ball was really, really good.
So, like you say, I'll play this through. This is not Aaron's most shining moment. I will give the caveat he's a left back. He's a right back playing at left back, but all the same. Now, moving on to the next highlight. This one, I think you felt we were too far forward again. Ross, just talk us why kind of moving if these players. So obviously, the blurry one is where they were, and then we've moved them to show where we think they should have been. So why do you think these players should have been here, mate?
The players should have been there to stop the ball going where it is where Panathinaikos want the ball to go. If we put Raskin and Diamond, I believe it is, in that position where it is, it will stop a prominent attack. It will just stop it completely, and we should get the ball back straight away.
Yeah, and then you want to add to that, Dylan?
I just think that when the managers, the way we've tried to press, right, you've got Danilo who's at the edge of the box, Diamandi's the next person you see on the right, and then Dowell's sort of tucked in, and then you've got Curtis who's sort of chasing the ball. Where Rothwell and Raskin start, for me, the danger is behind them because the two men are behind them. If the ball goes to two men behind them, they're running at our defence. So I know Rothwell is sort of marking that guy that's in between Curtis and Dowell, but if he drops back and the ball goes to him, there's still no danger. The ball's still in front of you. Whereas if they work it through to the two Panathinaikos players and Raskin and Rothwell are beyond the ball, again, it's a theme that happened throughout the night. They were playing in the gaps between our midfield and our defence and then getting the ball into the players and they were turning. Listen, they were a really good team, but again, I think this is where we maybe tried to press and get absolutely caught out with playing out. And you'll see it again, Dave. I think there's a couple of seconds where they do play out of it, and it's just being that aware of getting your midfielders back and getting behind their defenders, their midfielders. Sorry.
I totally agree, and basically what you've just described is exactly how it does play out. So we can see here, second ball, falls to the guy. Raskin's trying to recover, but can't get back enough, and he immediately releases their winger, and it's another dangerous situation. We're probably quite lucky there, I would say.
That all just comes from them not just literally moving 10 yards back and seeing the play in front of them. It's really, really simple. And these are teething things that I assume Russell Martin will address, obviously.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Dylan, because you know, I listened to his post-match interview, and he was obviously happy that they'd got through, but I think pretty much every answer was caveated with the fact that there was a hell of a long way to go. So I think he does recognise all these kind of things we're pointing out. Let's play this one on then. So we had a bit of a debate here. So first things first, let's talk about the positioning, and then we'll come back to the other part that we're going to talk about. So, Ross, I'll come to you first for this one. Obviously, we've got a couple arrows here. You've got Diamande, who we've said should be dropping back in almost in line with this linesman.
Yes.
And then Rothwell should be heading towards roughly where Diamande is. So why do we think that?
So with that, you're making passes. You want passes easy. You don't want to overcomplicate passes. If Diamandi goes out, as you said, to the arrow, and then Rockwell goes to Diamandi, you're now starting an attack which could, yes, they might not get to a goal, but it's good playing out from the back. I know Russell wants to play out from the back, but obviously it's team problems. But again, as we've explained, if they go with the arrows, it's good play. I just feel like Tabs are one screaming for the ball there. I don't know if we're expecting Diamandi to scream for the ball as well, or what.
And do you know what? Just because someone screams for the ball, I don't think necessarily we have to pass it to them. That could have been quite a good diversion if, as we said, Deal had dropped here to drag this chap behind Tav, closer in towards the box, and then leaves Jigga an open pass to Diamande. Ross, I'm just going to play the next couple of seconds, and then me and Dylan are going to have a wee bit of an argument, I think.
Cool.
So there we go. Now, I say argument in jest because, as I've said to everyone before, you're the expert. I'm really not. But for me, that pass from Jigga was way too soft. Now, I do take your point. You know, you don't want to be rifling at him with a player right behind him. But I do think there could have been a wee bit more pace on that, just to kind of make sure that it did reach Tav. As you can see there, it was very easily intercepted. You've got a different view, Dylan. Let's talk us through your side.
Listen, I think I'm on the fence with it. I understand why the pass has been played soft. It's so that Tav can play it first time. So Njiga knows there's a man on him. If he fires that in and Tav has to take a touch, that's what's going to happen. Now, it just so happens that Tav shifts his feet maybe a yard as he plays the pass, and it's to where Tav was as opposed to where he is. It's also to Tav's sort of weaker foot, so that the defender nicks into his near shoulder and nicks the ball. Whereas if it was, like you said, if there was a wee bit more on it, it could go across Tav's body. But for me, it's Tav that's at fault, not the passer. He is demanding the ball in there. He is a captain. And there's clips that we've showed that I don't think Tav's at fault for. I don't think he's at fault for the goal and stuff like that. But I think in this case scenario, I do think he's at fault. He's demanding the ball. He wants the ball. It's maybe short, but again, you shouldn't be standing at the edge of your box waiting on the ball coming to you. You should be reacting to it if it is short. So it's 50-50, I'm aware, to be honest with you, Dave. Understand why he's...
So with that, Dylan, sorry, do you want Tav to go further in and actually make more options for DJ?
No, like, Dave, see if you're going to wind it back just to the arrows. So this is like what we've seen of the chance that Raskin had. Only on the other side. Aarons comes in, plays it back to Suter. Suter goes wide. It's to Curtis, and Raskin runs in beyond. It just doesn't happen this time. Tav goes back to Giga, runs inside. Diomande should come wide. Ball to Dio, and Rothwell should be then played in. That's how that should work there. But it doesn't, because Dio doesn't move. If Dio moves here, Giga plays him the ball, but he's no other option, so he thinks, play it to Tav first time into Suter, and Tav dilly-dallies with it.
Yeah. If you also look, if he passed it to Suter, Grand Tav, it could have happened that same, you know?
I kind
You see what you mean, because if you look here...
Watch Tav's movement, right. He moves away from the ball.
Yeah, I was going to say, the ball's played. Tav is basically touching the corner of the box.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's taken a couple of shuffly steps back this way beforehand, and that has just let the defender roll in. So yeah, I can see the Tav element. I do still think there should be a wee bit more on the pass, but that's just me being picky. I think the one thing I will say, luck, again. That was a horrendous miss from that boy. I mean, again, we talked before about gilt edge chances. It doesn't come much better than that. I'm pretty sure he'll be fairly disappointed with that when they watch it back. So, just lastly for everyone then, we've got the Panathinaikos goal. Now, a couple of bits here to touch on again. So, I'm just going to play it through. That's the wing. Boygan crosses in. I'm just going to pause it there. So, Dylan, I'll come to you first on this one, mate. Obviously, we've highlighted Kieran Dowell here, and he is very much, it's almost like spot the difference here. So, talk us through that difference.
So, this is I've seen people say Kieran Dowell's holding his line, and for me, I want my defenders to be goal side. And what I mean by that is in between their own goal and their attackers. You have to be in between that. Now, every other Rangers player who's got a man is, apart from Kieran Dowell. I understand he's getting played as a winger, but right now in this moment, he's tucked in his back. For me, right now, he's the right back. Regardless whether he plays there or no, he doesn't think this cross is going to come in. It's a great cross. Can you blame Giga about not getting out quick enough? Maybe. But again, it's pre-season. I think if Dowell's goal side, even if he's playing everybody else on side, if you're goal side, that goal doesn't happen. It doesn't get a free header on it.
Yeah. I think the one thing I would say about Giga, I do tend to agree. I think he possibly could have been a wee bit quicker, but I'm not entirely unsure that Aaron's wasn't exactly the same. So I think even if Giga had pulled out a bit, Aaron's potentially would have played the boy on, or it'd have been very, very close.
Rewind it back to the start of the clip. Can I just point something out as well that I've just noticed? Get back for more. Right here, play it from there. Watch Raskin. Curtis presses the ball. Raskin doesn't go out there. For me, if he goes out there, he closes the ball down. I know that he swaps the man, but there's just not enough pressure on it. That's only 2 players, and there's 3 or 4 Rangers players there. We need to be going to hunt that down. He's at the edge of the box, and that's what happens. And you'll see teams like Motherwell do this, or St Mirren, they'll put crosses in from all angles and try and sort of get in beyond and get setting balls and tap-ins. And so, again, it's maybe a little bit thing to worry about, that we didn't press him quite good enough at the edge of our own box.
Yeah, you'd have to hope, as we said before, that is something Martin's going to be very focused on, especially with us heading back into domestic action. I think, Panathinaikos, there is as much chance that they're going to play through you as there is lumping crosses in. If he's watched any Scottish football, which I know he has, he obviously talked about it in his interviews once he signed, then he absolutely must be aware of that threat. And you would hope that's one of the things they've been working on this week, along with that kind of link-up play from back to front. Because again, I think that was missing. I felt a bit bad for Danilo and all that. We obviously saw one clip where he dropped right back, and he was actually behind the midfield too. So not Rothwell, I think he was about the same as Rothwell, but he was actually behind Dio and Raskin just to try and get him. He was getting next to no service all day.
Sorry, say it yourself, Dave. I agree with Danilo. A lot of people are having a go at Danilo. What can he do if he's not getting the service? He's a lone striker. He needs the service to do what he does. So
I'd agree with that, but I'm hoping that Dylan isn't going to dash my thoughts here.
No, I think that. Listen, I'm a big Danilo fan. With the talk in the chat about Dessers comes on and misses that chance, and does Danilo get into that, get that opportunity? For me, Danilo actually comes down, like you say, deeper than his two 8s, and then his touch actually takes him deeper than his number 6. If your striker's having to do that to get on the ball, something's the matter.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Now, if your striker is doing that to get on the ball, it should be a first-time layoff to your 8, and then the Curtis should be running in behind, and the ball's through to where Danilo came from. That's the rotation there that should happen. Same if it comes from the other side. So, I think these things will come. But again, see if Rothwell moves 10 yards deeper, Danilo doesn't have to stream in there as hard. He can just drop into that space and maybe get on the ball and turn. But because it's so crowded, he has to sort of try and take his touch out. I do think he's fouled in it, to be fair, at least to their chance.
Mm-hmm.
He tries to pass the ball and then the boy leaves one on him. So, again, I think he's a tough night, Danilo, do you know what I mean? Didn't see much of the ball. But again, was involved in the goal, whether you like it or not. He's the one that takes a second pop shot that comes off a defender and falls to the gas man who buries it well. So,
I think I'd be interested to see how he fares domestically, Danilo. I don't know. I think some of our fans, just for our recent European history, maybe turned up expecting us to just steamroller them. It's easy to forget they're not a bad team, right?
Yeah.
They are quite good. I think they've got a tough game coming up, but potentially they could still go through and get into the Europa groups. So, I think for me, we do need to credit the fact that we took that victory, as well as obviously analyse the flaws. So, with that in mind, I think we've covered everything from the Panathinaikos game. We will be back soon to break down more games for you. But for now, Ross, thanks for coming on, mate.
Thank you very much. Just one more question for you before you go. Sorry, just one more. For the game tomorrow, do you rest any players ahead of Tuesday's match?
No, not from me. Maybe at the tail end of the game, so take him off like 55, 60 minutes and give him a good half-hour rest at the end. But I think starting-wise, I'm not naive enough to say that Europe doesn't matter, and I know it'd have been knives out if we'd lost this tie, right?
Yeah.
But for me, the focus this year has to be domestic. We have spent far
100%.
too long going on brilliant European runs, building the coefficient, so that bunch across the city can then jump into the Champions League at our expense because they win the league. And I'm
Yeah,
sick.
yeah.
You know, we have to take the domestic stuff seriously. We have to really go all out to stamp our name domestically. And for me, what comes in Europe is a bonus rather than
100%. Yeah, yeah.
Last night I was of the opinion that I don't know why, because to me it doesn't really matter, but because it was Champions League and the amount of money that's up for grabs, that right now that was sort of my more important game than Motherwell away, and I think it'll be a tougher game as well. So I was saying last night I would want to see changes. When I just heard Dave there, it makes me sit on the fence because you're right. I do want to obviously win the league and I really want to get a good start in it and put a marker down. But again, these guys have ran about. Shooters played 290 minutes in a week. One of them was in 38-degree heat. He's going to be burst, and you're going to ask him to go to Ibrox again, do it all again Tuesday. So I think I would maybe take off Tav, put Aarons in, maybe start Fernandez and probably start Jeff in the left. The rest of them can argue about it with themselves. Like I think Curtis comes off, Dowell comes off. That's just what I would like to see though, and actual wingers on. But the only sort of players I would look to this is maybe sort of Shooter and Tav, and maybe one of the midfielders, whether it's Rothwell or Raskin or. Listen, I'm not saying don't bring them on, but I think I would start. I think the team's still good enough to go and beat Motherwell, so I would probably.
I was awkward there when I'd get the likes of Cameron and etc. It's not game time. Start them. And I said, all right, so Raskin said on the bench if needed.
Yeah.
But hopefully we shouldn't need it, but it's always there if we need it.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Motherwell,
This
but we
is
should
it.
be fine.
Okay, well, thanks again, Ross. Appreciated.
Thank you very
And
much.
Dylan, thanks for coming back. Much
No
appreciated.
problem, lad. Not a problem.
Okay, well, thanks for watching, everyone. And for now, every night's a Rangers Journal night.